Welcome to the Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another great guest. He's been making a great impact all around the world, over 20 plus countries. He's been working with multi-million dollar businesses, global brands, some of the most successful entrepreneurs out there he's been involved with. He's been helping a lot of ambitious leaders lead with clarity, redefine their success, unlocking their potential, and of course, living a regret-free life, a zero regret life. He has a very holistic approach to success, truly believing that you have to climb those summits faster while also staying healthy, nurturing meaningful relationships, which is something a lot of people kind of put on the back end, only focusing on the success side. So it's very, very important. He has with regards to using his break-free system and also using conscious communication, he's helping people really boost up their clarity, momentum, and of course, increasing team performances as well. He is the best-selling author of the book Break Free. So please welcome serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, speaker, and success coach, Mr. SAAHIL Mehta.
Wow, that was such an amazing introduction. I think I need to work with you more often because that you nailed it. You nailed it. Such a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you very much for being here. I think you speak on a topic that's very, very important in today's entrepreneurship and business atmosphere, and that is a lot of people focus so much on success, focus so much on going, that a lot of stuff gets left behind. Mainly health and also their relationships and all those other things that people tend to not talk about. But before we get to why you're so good at what you do right now, can you kind of talk about how did you get here? How did you become this leader? How did you become this speaker that's sharing with the world how to have clarity and also reaching success holistically?
Absolutely, Fong. So let's go back about 10 years. It was 2016, and I'm just reviewing stuff, my life in general. And from the definition that I had of success in my 20s, which was pretty much inherited, right? It was something that came from family, from community, from the media, social media, from friends, etc. And it went something along like this: have a net worth of 7 figures, nice home, drive a nice fancy car, married, kids, and hopefully no debt, at least no personal debt. And I checked all those boxes. I'm living in this beautiful home. I'm traveling the world. I've got this amazing Porsche. And I go, but why am I not jumping up and down with joy? Like I've made it, right? I've made it. I've checked all the boxes. And I realized that I wasn't living a definition of success that I truly thought about, one that was personal to me, but rather something that was inherited, as I mentioned. And here's the thing. We all have our unique fingerprint. However, many people, when I speak to them, they all have a very similar definition of success. How is that? How can we all be so unique, so different, and have a similar definition of success? It just made no sense to me. And so I started asking myself questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Like, what is the purpose of life? And those questions kind of led me on a path to discover myself. Because what I realized, yes, from the outside, things look good. People see my life, my lifestyle, and they go, "Oh, he's doing well. I wish I could be like him." But I'm struggling with my health. My body's in constant inflammation. I'm lethargic to the point where there's certain points of the day where I just fall asleep. I just couldn't keep myself awake. I'm waking up with brain fog. I've got a blocked nose every morning. My relationships with people that matter really a lot to me, my wife, my father, they're good. Could be much better. But certainly causing elements of pain, at least to me. But it all started to shift when I went on this retreat, and I went with a bunch of entrepreneurs. Because at that time, I was running a couple of businesses. I had some businesses that failed as well along the way. So, I've been doing business for a good solid 10 to 15 years before I was in this position. So I go into this retreat, and we all agreed to 2 words. And those 2 words are no judgment. Now, all of a sudden, I felt this huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I didn't have to pretend to be someone that I'm not. and I could just be me. And the only word I can use to describe how those 4 or 5 days went while we were on the retreat are euphoric. And I said, wow, life can be this good. Like I can enjoy things so much. And so as I'm flying back, I'm thinking to myself, if this is the guy that I am, then who's this guy that I'm going back to? That's not who I want to be. And I realized I was just carrying a lot of baggage with me. I felt I've made my life so difficult that we're all climbing metaphorical mountains. And I have all this weight in my backpack that for whatever reason, I'm refusing to let go of. And so I realized if I want to scale my summits faster, I'm going to have to identify these rocks and start eliminating them, because I had a lot of fears, belief systems that weren't working for me anymore. Fear of, I'm a people pleaser. And so that really was a tough one, because I'm always thinking about others, but rarely about myself. The fear of judgment, kind of making sure that I check the boxes of what success means to the world outside so I can prove that I've made it. But made it for who? Like, does it even matter if someone else thinks my life is great or not? No, because I didn't think my life was great.
Right.
So that's kind of where the journey started. And since then, it's just constantly discovering from, whether it's a pebble, a rock, a boulder, whatever it is that's in my backpack, I'm discovering it, finding out how I can get rid of it so that I can continue to climb my mountains faster.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome. I would like to take you back to that moment at that get together, or the what was it, like a mastermind kind of thing, or
The retreat.
yeah, the retreat.
Yeah.
Now, you said that the very first thing was everybody agreed that there's no judgment. Okay, but it's one thing to say it. It's another thing for each individual to feel that there actually was no judgment. So what was that instant, or what happened for everybody to go, oh, it really is no judgment? Because there's still a period of time where people are still have their walls up before they let everything go, right? So what was that made you feel this truly is a no judgment zone?
So Fong, I can't talk about the others because some of them, maybe they felt the same, maybe they didn't.
Mhm.
But I felt it when I saw vulnerability. Because now I'm thinking, wow, these people, they're successful entrepreneurs that usually put up this amazing, this front that I'm amazing and look at me, my company, and my life. And all of a sudden, they start talking about some really deep-rooted struggles. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, because here's the thing, when someone is vulnerable, it's almost like they invite the other person to be vulnerable as well. It's like you've opened the door.
Right.
And so when I started seeing other people being real, being authentic, talking about the highs and the lows, I said, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to do the same. I can continue to pretend, or I can just take advantage of this wonderful opportunity that I've been given and start to open up. And then once everyone starts opening up, the momentum builds up. And then next thing you know, everyone's just blurting out everything. And the way that I put it is, it's like we're all swimming and we're skinny dipping. We're just being completely pure and open. And no one is sitting on the sidelines watching, because when that happens, people feel uncomfortable skinny dipping. And then everyone's like, you know what? Maybe I need to get out of the pool and put on some clothes. But if everyone is doing it, all of a sudden you feel, okay, it's safe. And we've all kind of given each other permission that it's okay. So vulnerability, absolutely. And I always say it just takes one. You just need that one brave person to jump first, and then the rest follow.
Is that a feeling that people outside of these retreats that don't go into these things can actually experience for themselves? Like, what do you recommend people, like entrepreneurs who are struggling, who feel like they're being judged all the time? How do they get to a point of feeling, hey, you know what, there is no judgment? What can they do on a day-to-day basis to kind of open that hole a little bit more and step into it?
I love that question, Fong. And I'm going to share a story about one of my coaching clients. Now, this coaching client, he's from a wealth perspective, I mean, super wealthy, right? He doesn't have to worry about anything financial in life. Really he's got full financial freedom. Let's just say that. He comes to me and I live in Dubai. I'm currently in the US, but I live in Dubai. I usually travel between the two. And he comes to me, and he had recently moved to Dubai. And he tells me, he says, Sahil, I'm really struggling settling in. Everyone's so shallow, and I feel people are fake around me. I said, okay, I hear you. And I said, what have you done to what have you done to invite the other person? And he goes, in the sense, have you been vulnerable? Have you been open with them? He goes, no. I said, why don't you open your door? Share something and see if they're willing to walk through that door and engage with you and turn that into a beautiful conversation. And if they're not, it's okay. But as long as they know that your door is open, there's an invitation to say, hey, welcome, please come on in. Let's be real. Now, fast forward to the next coaching session. He tells me, oh my goodness, I've met so many wonderful people. But if everyone's putting on this facade and no one opens that door, who's going to walk through? No one. So you can either continue living that way, or you can say, you know what, let me just share something that's easy for me to say, somewhat vulnerable, but it's inviting the other person, and then see how the magic happens. And again, not everyone's going to walk through that door, and that's okay. But the ones that do, now you have that opportunity to have very open and wonderful conversations. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had conversations with people at large events where people come up to me afterwards and said, what were you talking about for half an hour? That person is so shallow. I said, maybe to you. But I said, we had a wonderful, beautiful conversation where I came out a richer individual because I learned so much from them.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to taking that first step, right? We're talking about taking that first step of being vulnerable. And you mentioned just start off with something easy. It also requires you to have some sort of confidence in yourself too, to be open to be vulnerable as well. So give me an example of something that, let's say, is easy for something to start sharing. And also, what type of individual are they sharing it to? Is it close family and friends? Is it somebody that they don't know? Like, how do you break through first and then get that going?
Well, look, I'm going to share a story which has nothing to do with your question, but it makes a very good point, and then I'll answer your question. It reminds me of in my youth, drinking was a bit of a taboo, okay, in our community. And I would be out, and all of a sudden I might see a friend's younger sibling at the same venue. And they see me with a drink in my hand, and I'm just thinking, oh, this is awkward, right? This is really awkward. And so what I did to break the ice was I would just go up to them and say, hey, let me buy you a drink. Now, they probably felt awkward. I felt awkward. I made an offer. Went, took him to the bar. We had a drink. We had a nice chat. We broke the ice, and we actually got to know each other a little better. Mm. But the point was, someone has to take the first step to break the ice. And what I found is just talk about anything that is comfortable. Some people may find it's okay to speak about a relationship challenge that they're facing. You might have a challenge with a coworker. You may have a challenge with a friend, a parent. I mean, everyone's got a relationship challenge. Mm. Which one are you open to sharing? Many people have health issues, and it might not be a major health issue. It's not something that's chronic, but maybe you've just been feeling low on energy lately. Maybe you're running on that treadmill so much that you're not getting time off. And so you just mention it, you just open up and talk about it. And I find as an entrepreneur that mind, the business mind, never really stops. It's not like it's, 6 o'clock. Now my mind is off work and let me go home. Yes, I do train myself to, when I get home, I usually change my clothes because for me, that's a transition. And then I can be more present with the children and the wife. But it doesn't mean I never think about work post 6 p.m. because I run businesses across the world. So, somewhere in the world, something is open, right? So I always talk about some of these challenges. And here's the thing, when you get open and you're vulnerable, it becomes so easy for you and natural that the other person goes, oh my God, I can't believe they're talking about something so personal. But in your mind, you're thinking, hey, this is nothing. I could I mean, I'm happy to go much deeper, but this is just my invitation to open up the conversation.
Mhm.
So everyone's got some sort of relationship challenge in their life. That's an easy one. And if you're feeling a certain way, certain emotions that keep cropping up that you're not happy with, another one to talk about. Definitely beats talking about sports or the weather, which is not gonna, we're not gonna learn much from that necessarily.
Right. No, and I think that's very, very important to start those conversations because in the generations that we are dealing with now, social media is so big out there, and all we really see is the glitz and glamour,
Mm.
the great stuff, the smiling faces, all the success, but we don't really understand what's going behind the scenes, and people believe, oh, that's what it is. They're always happy. It's always successful. So opening up those conversations, you realize, hey, they're people too. And I think that's something that lots of people are forgetting about that you know what, there is hard work behind all this stuff. And all this stuff may or may not be of 100%, let's say, not necessarily true, but the their entire life kind of thing, right? Because they're not showing a lot of other things.
I love what you're saying, Fong, because here's the thing: as leaders, at least I'm now speaking from my own experience of running multiple businesses, businesses that have failed, businesses that have succeeded. The most I've ever learned is through my failures. I don't even call them failures anymore. I actually call them learning lessons or life lessons. It's only a failure if you keep repeating it again and again and you don't learn anything from it. That's another one that's easy to talk about. Like, where have you failed and what did you learn from it? Now the person is thinking, wow, this person is human. They're not this this amazing person standing on a pedestal with with glory all around them. They actually failed, they fell, and this is how they recovered. Wow, let me talk about some of the challenges I'm facing. So I love what you're saying. That makes absolute sense.
Is there a good time to start sharing that kind of stuff? So for instance, let's say a company just brings in a new CEO or a new manager or a new management company, and that company comes in and starts like sharing all their failures and opening up and all that kind of stuff. Well, the people who don't know them are saying, "What's going on? Why are we giving it to this person?" Right? Like when's that line or when's that time where sharing is appropriate so that your brand or your reputation doesn't get ruined?
Look, again, if I always say you start with something that you consider is small and that's easy for you to share.
Mhm.
Um, and you just see how it lands. You don't have to blurt everything out and talk about the toughest thing that you're ever facing and how you have a friend who just passed away and another one who's about to die because they're on life support. Yeah, maybe that might be too heavy, but
Mhm.
talk about something that's relatively easy and simple and see how it lands. But here's the thing: like, I'm going to share something that I picked up from my nephew. Actually, I was traveling with him over the summer, and what I noticed was he could pick up a conversation with anyone. Anyone. I mean, he's in his 30s and he's picking up a conversation with someone in their 60s, someone who's in their, just a young adult, and everything in between. And I'm just observing this guy going, wow. I mean, that's a skill set. Like, that's not easy.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up in Europe, and in Europe, the mindset is, you know, leave people alone. Just don't bother them. Unless if you have to say something, don't bother them. So in many times in my head, I might want to say something, but I say nothing because I'm thinking, you know what, maybe that will bother them. And perhaps it's also a little bit of my people pleasing tendency that
Uh,
kicks in and goes, oh, what if they find it annoying? What if they find it frustrating? I'll give you an example from just this morning. I was at doing a fitness. I was in, doing a fitness class, and I was really pushing myself today. And there was this lady who was next to me, and every time I felt like slowing down or just sitting for a little while, I would watch her and go, "Wow, she's like crushing it," and it inspired me. Now, the previous version of me would have said nothing. I would have appreciated it in my head, and that's it. But this time, thanks to my nephew, I actually went up to her at the end of the class and I said, "Excuse me, I just want to let you know that because of you, every time I was about to slow down or give up, I looked at you and I got inspired and I kept going." And she said, "Oh my goodness, I was feeling the same way about you." So we both, think about it. We just elevated each other's lives by being open rather than keeping that voice silent in our heads. Now, the previous version of me would have said nothing. And as a result of actually having this conversation, and this is a very tiny amount of vulnerability, it's not really like a scary thing to share. But both of us had a big smile on our face. Both of us felt joy and happiness as a result of the conversation. And what's the downfall? I mean, she would have just ignored me, and that's okay.
Right.
So there's start with something small, something that you feel is easy, that's digestible, and see where it lands.
Yeah, I love those stories that you just shared. I remember I walked up to a speaker one time and go, "Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you," and he didn't even let me continue. He turned around and was like, "Well, don't start off like that. Now I feel like you're gonna bother me." Right? And it's that whole mental state that where most people are in, where they think that, oh, I'm going to bother them. So they start off by saying that just so that they can have an excuse or justify the fact that they are bothering them, right? So approach people by saying, hey, I would love to add some value to you. Think that first. And then maybe the conversation will go a different way. And that whole just holding each other accountable without even knowing about it, that's awesome. Because, well, how I started this podcast was with two, it wasn't with two other people, but at the same time I knew two other people who were starting their podcast, and apparently all three of us are just watching each other and say, oh, you have another episode out, well, I'm gonna have to do another episode. And this has gone on for 4 or 5 years now, and we've never stopped a beat. It's pretty fun. And the thing is, when you have people around you supporting you and also pushing each other, it's great. Like, you see success just kind of grow from there. So awesome stories. I love those. Something that you also talk about is having that no regret life, regret free. Now, there's lots of people goes, yeah, I don't have any regrets. They just say that in the face of people. What do you see when people are struggling that they're usually like dealing with, like with regards to regrets and whatnot? How do you get to that no regret life?
The no regret life starts with having clarity on what success means to you. Right? I told you at the beginning of this podcast, Fong, that my definition of success was not really truly mine. It was inherited. And it was a mixed salad where part of it was parents, part of it community, part of it media, social media, educational system, etc. Now I started asking myself, well, if that's not my definition of success, what is? And then over time, what I did was I developed this framework, which I now call the the exponential success blueprint. And what that allows is, as a mountaineer, we have something called the seven summits. It's the tallest mountain on each continent. And when you climb, when you climb all seven of them, it's like you've conquered the world. And that got me thinking, well, what about your internal seven summits? What about conquering those? And some people would ask me, well, why not three or four? I said, well, if I say three, everyone is going to pick health, wealth, relationships, or some combination of that, right? But when you think about seven, now you have to think deep, like what else matters to me? And for me, for example, something that came up, which I wasn't expecting, was fun and recreation. Because for me, if I'm not enjoying life, like what's the point? So, and again, seven, you got seven colors of the rainbow. You've got the seven dwarves. I mean, lucky number seven. Seven, it's got a nice number to it, a nice ring to it. So once you discover your internal seven summits of what matters to you, you're no longer with blinders on. Like me, when I saw an opportunity, I would think, oh, my company can grow. I'll be bigger, well, more recognized, and I'll make more money. That's all I saw because I had my blinders on. I'm not looking at what does it mean to the other six summits, the other six mountains that I'm climbing. And for sure, in some cases, you have to make sacrifices. You might say, well, just for this much time, I'm going to give up fun and recreation because I need to focus on the growth of this new vertical in my business. I get it. But I've seen way too many times, Fong, with amazing folks that I coach, once a sacrifice is over, another sacrifice is made. Another sacrifice is made. They keep telling me family is my biggest priority. And then I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. You sacrifice it again and again. You sacrifice health again and again, and you keep saying it's your priority. So it's not a priority, it's a lifestyle choice. Like, be honest with yourself, because your calendar, your decisions, your actions do not reflect that these are a priority in your life.
Right.
And so once you have this, you just have more clarity. And every time you want to make an important decision, you ask yourself, well, what is the net effect? Am I going up these mountains overall, or am I going down? And like I said, if I'm going down and it's temporary, I don't mind. When it really is a sacrifice, which is temporary, because sometimes you have to dip a little bit to go up. That's okay. And once you start living and taking steps in the direction of what life is, which is successful by your definition, you start moving towards fulfillment, because this is the life you want to live. It's the life that you've designed. And that starts taking you away from regret. Because the last thing you want is to be on your deathbed at, and I'm saying 100 plus because the way the health, and longevity and all that's kicking in, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are listening here are going to live past 100 years. When you're 105 and you're on your deathbed, you're going to look back and go, I wish I spent more time with my spouse, my kids, with the people that mattered to me. I wish I took more care of my health. I could have lived till 115 instead. But it's too late at that point. And unfortunately, even me, if I look at some of my biggest lessons, it's when I've been slapped in the face. Now, luckily for me, it never got to the point where a relationship broke or health became a chronic issue or something that's irreversible, but it was done. It was darn close. It was darn close. And there were warning signs early on, and I just ignored them. I got to plow through. I got to run faster. I need to make that extra $1 million in revenue or whatever that goal was of mine. But what was I giving up in order to do that? Because I'm already living a great lifestyle. Earning much more money is not going to change the way that I live. So why would I then sacrifice time with my family or my health? It just makes no sense to me.
That is awesome. And I love that story where you mentioned hey, yeah, there's seven of them. And then somebody goes, well, why not three? Well, that right there is your problem. You're already trying to do less work. Now, the thing is, some people go, okay, why not just three? But they don't realize that once you start digging in, there's a lot more things that actually mean a lot to you. Like you said, family, but somebody could go, well, it's my spouse specifically, or it's my kids specifically, or it's my parents specifically. At what point do you go, okay, I'm expanding too much? Like there's too many things to focus on now when they start digging into it. Like, because you could do the same thing with business. If you have like seven companies, like this company and this company, when do you go, okay, wait a minute, I need to be a little bit more broad and not split my energy too much? Like how you manage that?
Well, look, it's once you define your seven, what I love about that is then on a monthly basis, what you're doing is you're asking yourself, up to three, what are my three big priorities this month? Because that's your area of focus. Because yes, you have lots going on. You're juggling these seven balls, and maybe one ball is then can be subdivided. Like you said, your business could be so many different things. You might have multiple businesses, but you just talk about your top three priorities and then just focus on what is every day. You just ask yourself, what is one step that I can take in the direction towards my summits? So even though you have seven businesses, maybe one of them requires more of your attention right now. Maybe the other one does. I mean, it's hard to tell without knowing all the facts, but for example, I run three businesses. And I realized that, and again, I tell you, people learn the hard way. So just to be clear, in these three businesses, two of them, I'm first generation. I started them, one of them with a co-founder, one myself. And then the third business is I'm second generation. My father started the business. Now, when he was alive, we had shared responsibility because, he was managing that one business where I'm now taken over because he passed away. But you always think that people are no one's gonna, for some reason, people think they're not gonna die. Yeah, I'll get to it later. That conversation with my parents that I really need to have, yeah, I'll get to it later. But guess what, folks? That later sometimes doesn't come. And in the case of my father, his passing away was sudden. So all of us, now I've got all this responsibility because we don't have any other folks who are involved in these businesses. And I can't run three businesses on my own, Fong. I just can't, not at an operational level. And the most logical thing to do at that time was to give up my new business because that was the least income generating because it was new. But that was the business which was in line with my definition of success and the one that gave me the most fulfillment, which is what I'm speaking about now, which is the coaching, the speaking, doing retreats on the mountains, really focusing on business owners to stress less, grow faster, and move towards a zero regret life by reframing what success means. And so I said, if I give this up, it's like I've taken a chunk of me away. And I had already built up momentum, and I knew if I stopped, I don't know if I would have started again. So I said, okay, well, I can't do all three because then I'm just spreading myself too thin. I'm running too much. I'm going to ignore my health. I'm going to ignore family. I'm going to burn out. I'm just digging in myself an early grave. And so I started to ask myself, what are decisions that only I can make or that I wish to make because I really enjoy making them? And everything else needs to be delegated, or I need to bring in more people, basically empower others.
Right.
And so it took me a little bit of time, but I got to the stage where now in two of those businesses out of the three, I'm no longer involved at an operational level. But again, this was reactive. It's because of a life situation that happened that almost forced me to make such a decision. But while my dad was alive, I never thought about it. And that's what I'm trying to say. Many people often do things as it's reactive. My health goes sideways. Oh my God, I got to do something about it. I've lost a family member. Oh my God, now I got to do this. But why not be proactive? Why not ask yourself what this all means? Why not design your life in a way that it's fulfilling for you and then take steps towards that every single day? And the last thing I'm going to say on this point, Fong, is when I'm climbing these high altitude mountains, many times when I take people on a retreat, I always tell them, listen, find your rhythm. Find your rhythm. Because if you compare to others and you're like, oh, I'm much faster than them, and then you have to wait at every stop, or you're much slower and you're like, I need to go faster to keep up with the others, which is usually what happens to people, they're not enjoying themselves. And I remember on one of these retreats, I look at this one guy who's climbing with us. I say, well, you don't look like you're having so much fun. And he goes, no, I feel I'm keeping the group up by being slower than them. I said, listen, we have enough guides, we have enough people. Don't worry, just find your rhythm, find your pace. At the next break, he's got this huge smile on his face. I said, tell me what's going on. He goes, when I slowed down just a little bit and I found my rhythm, I'm now enjoying all my surroundings. I'm taking in all this nature. I'm enjoying the conversations in my head because I'm not thinking about letting others down and keeping up with them. And so as an entrepreneur, many times I start running faster than I go, Sahil, whoa, whoa, whoa. Step on the brakes a little bit because now you're going at a speed that's not sustainable for you. And I have to remind myself all the time, even though I've done it so many times, I still have to remind myself that slow down a little bit. And just by giving yourself that little extra room, you can go from, oh my God, this is too much, I can't handle it, to, hey, I'm enjoying this journey.
Very powerful stuff. I love that comparison, and it really works when it comes to anything that we do in our lives, whether it's working out, whether it's building your business, whether it's health. If you go too fast, sometimes it gets the negative effect. You mentioned how lots of people starts to react too much, right? And that's generally what we do. When something happens, we react to it, and when something happens that doesn't go the way we want it, we realize, hey, we need a change. So is that normal? Is that something that has to happen first before we get to this realization of no regret life kind of thing? Do we have to go through the downs before we realize, hey, we need a change? So when you work with your clients, is it usually this way?
So look, there's two parts to this. One is, can you be more proactive versus being reactive? And the answer is absolutely, because once you look, there's some things that you just can't predict, right? Um, when certain things happen in the world, no one saw it coming. And so then there will be a reaction. But there's many things where you can read about other people, or even you see people in the previous generation, you go, had they been more proactive, life would have been a lot easier for them. So let's not repeat mistakes. We can't predict things that will happen, but we can certainly look at generally what's going on. And we see again and again people reacting when it's too late when it comes to health. People reacting when they're like, oh my God, this family member or friend is now about to die. I have this heavy conversation that I've always wanted to have. I need to have it now. Oh, they don't even get a chance. And then they're living with that guilt for the rest of their life. So there are things that you can be proactive about because you're seeing it happen in front of you all the time, all around the world. So be proactive.
Mm.
Now, the second part that you mentioned about, do you have to go through those dark moments? Now, I always tell people that, listen, when you climb your own metaphorical mountains, you have to go through the peaks and the valleys. There's no mountain that is always straight up. And by the way, if anyone who's listening here has found a mountain that just goes straight up and has no valley at all, please let me know. I want to climb that mountain because I haven't found one yet. Okay. But there's peaks and there's valleys. And usually, what I found, not always the case, but in many, many cases, and I would say the majority of cases, you will have to go through a valley to get to the peak. So you will have to face some demons. You will have to face some tough moments. And whenever people look at my life, and like everything you mentioned in the social media, they see all the good stuff, but they don't see the struggle that came with it. And I'll give you an example. As I was transitioning, as I was, on I was, moving, this momentum kept building up because I kept discovering all these rocks I'm carrying. And I'm like, oh my God, through online courses, offline courses, mentors, coaches, trial and error. I tried so many things, but I started to identify and eliminate them. And as I did, my lifestyle started to shift. Now, here's the thing. My wife and I used to share a lot of food together. I changed my diet, and that restricted what we could share together. We used to watch TV together. I pretty much stopped watching TV now. So that's another activity we weren't doing anymore. I decided that I want to sleep early so that I can wake up early in the morning because I love my mornings now.
Yeah.
So many times I sleep and I'm the only one in bed. And when she wakes up, she's the only one in bed because I've already got up and started my morning ritual. And so there's a lot of changes that were going on. And one day she just tells me, she goes, Sahil, I don't recognize you anymore. And what the biggest mistake I made in this process was we weren't aligning. Like, in a train track, to go forward, you have to make sure that the connectors are there between the two tracks. And we were just starting to veer off in different directions. And that really started to affect our marriage. And so I kept asking myself, should I go back to who I used to be? Because that can save our marriage. And I said, but you're not doing anything wrong. You're not an alcoholic. You're not gambling. You're not, substance abuse. You're not cheating on people. You're not doing bad things. If anything, you've become a better version of yourself. But the problem was I wasn't communicating with her. We weren't aligning along the way. And so I took a lot of effort to start bringing us closer and aligning with each other in the way we think and understand one another by creating a safe space where we could talk openly and not judge one another. And thankfully, that saved our marriage. And we're in a very, very good place now because we communicate so much better than we used to before. But the point I'm trying to make with all of this is you will go through those dark moments. I went through many dark moments. But when you do get through it, life is amazing. It just gets better and better. But if you give up during that point, because it's so easy to do that, then you just stay where you are.
Yeah. Now, if you don't mind sharing, what was some of those things that was discussed between you and your wife to get more aligned? Like you're because in your mind you go, you know what? Waking up early, sleeping early is good for my health. Changing my diet, that's good for my health. I'm doing all these things for the good of my health and my well-being. Okay. So how did you, I don't know, negotiate or work certain things so that it's more aligned with what your spouse wanted?
So it's not like a hard stop, right? I mean, in the sense, like, we used to also go to the movies frequently.
Hmm.
And so I said, look, if it's really important for you that I come, I will come for you. And then just that statement meant you mattered to me. And if you want me there, I will be there. But as a result of that, because we're also being more accepting of each other and we're being more open about what we don't like and etc., rather than asking me to come every 2 weeks, for example, if she wants to go to the cinema, she's now maybe asking me once every 2 to 3 months.
I see.
Now, even though I don't do something frequently, I'm happy to do it infrequently because I do love her and I want to do for her. So if it's something that even is against what I'd like to do, but it's important for her, I'm happy to do it. And so we just became more selective about requesting the other person. Because here's another thing. There's this amazing philosopher, Khalil Gibran. He wrote The Prophet, and he's got this passage on marriage. Please search for it. It's one page. Even if you don't like reading, it's one page. There's no excuse. But when I read that, we had a conversation around it, and it basically what it meant is we're two souls that are not tied at the hip. We're two individuals. We just happen to intertwine a lot in life because of our relationship. And so the things that she enjoys doing, which I don't, and by not forcing me to be there, because then I'm not in my best state of being, it prevents unnecessary disruption or conflict. So now for certain things, she'd call up her friends who are as passionate as her in those areas of interest, and she goes with them, and she comes back and she's so happy. I'm so happy because I wasn't forced to go. And vice versa. There's certain things that I love doing that she doesn't. And before, we used to say, oh, we have to do everything together. We have to go somewhere together, come back together, do all these activities together. But we're not tied at the hip. We're two individuals. And so now it's the same way. Only if it's really important to me, I'll say, sweetheart, I really would appreciate if you could come. And when it's just that request every now and again, we both know it's important, we do it. But because we're doing certain activities without forcing or having those expectations or perceived expectations, we're both more free. We're both more authentic. We both have a much more fun relationship. Um, so that really drives this point on expectations, right? Just and again, as a people pleaser, I can tell you, I had so many expectations that were perceived in my mind. Whether it was true or not, I don't know. But as a result of that, I did for others. But then in many cases, I said yes when I wanted to say no, and I'd be harming myself.
So when it comes to the seven things, what are your seven things?
So this is not necessarily in order of priority. I might get it slightly wrong, but I think it's almost in the order of priority. The first one is health.
Mhm.
The second one is family. The third one is fun and recreation. The fourth one is personal growth. Fifth is the business. Sixth is spirituality. And seventh is community service, like giving back to the community. So these are my seven summits. And I'm pretty sure I got that order right as well.
And do you schedule some time for each one of those seven throughout the month or throughout the week, just to make sure they all get some attention?
Absolutely. So I'm doing an assessment every week. I mean, sorry, every month. How did I do the last month, and what are the next few steps that I need to take for this month? But then those are on my desk, so I see that every single day. Because when I see it, I know these are my top three priorities this month, and then I drill it down to what is the task that I need to do today.
Mhm.
And I do want to say one thing here as well, Fong, is it's not just what do I need to do today, it's who do I need to be today.
Right.
Because some things mean that I need to be more compassionate. Some things require me to be more stern, more confident, more fearless.
Mhm.
So it's very important that it's almost like wearing a costume, right? It's how do you get into that zone in order to have success for that one item that you're doing that day.
Mhm. Now, something else you mentioned before is that there's always those valleys. There's always those failures, which you call learned lessons. Can you share with us one of the biggest learned lessons in your entrepreneurship journey, and then also your biggest life lesson or lesson learned in your mountaineering?
Sure. So the first one, the biggest lesson I've learned as an entrepreneur and I've learned it the hard way, is just be you. Like really have the courage to be yourself. Because when you are yourself, you're in flow. You're just an amazing human being. When I was being somebody I was not, the danger for me was people started getting they were not in love, but the relationship was strong with the fake me,
Mm.
not the real me. And so when I had the courage to be myself, and in my case, again, I'm just referring to the people pleasing, when I started to say no and put, highlight my boundaries, when the people were always used to hearing yes over decades, it was tough because now they're thinking I'm being rude and because they're used to me being a certain way. But I stuck with it, and now they understand that the real me. And many times I would tell them, I'm like, look, I love you for who you are and the way you are, and for everything that you are. I accept you, and I hope one day you will accept me for the way that I am. And if you don't, it's okay. I completely understand that. But if you do, then we can have a magical relationship together. So that's the biggest lesson I've learned is just be you because you're amazing. You don't need to try to be anyone else and be a weaker version of someone else.
That's just what to say when you say a sentence like that or a paragraph like that. How can anybody be mad? Like, how can anybody be pissed off with what you just told them?
Yeah, I mean, it also happens with my wife because I'm a big believer of don't assume, and so sometimes she'll tell me, "Why are you asking all these questions? You should know by now. We've been married for almost 18 years," and I go, "Sweetheart, this relationship matters too much to me to make an assumption. So I'm just asking you to be a 100% sure that it is what I think it is." Can't argue with that. The biggest lesson I've learned on the mountain is communication. And what do I mean by that? Here, Fong, we're both in a room. Well, you have this beautiful bridge behind you, but I'm in a room here. You seem like you're outdoors. I control the lighting, I control everything. I'm safe. And if I communicate something incorrectly, it might waste time, might waste resources, money. What are the consequences? All of that, maybe, someone gets hurt, maybe someone gets fired. It's not the end of the world. On the mountain, if you mess up communication, and I'm not talking about now these, small mountains. I'm talking about where it's technical. You're harnessed, you're on ropes, you have ice axes, you're going up walls. If you don't communicate clearly or receive the communication clearly, there could be grave danger, could be a big accident or even death. And so if people communicate here on ground zero the way they communicate on the mountain, so many issues would disappear because there would be a lot more clarity and it wouldn't be, I thought you said this, or because I find most problems happen because of misalignment in communication. But if you can communicate like you do in the mountains, wow, a lot of problems will just disappear.
What is one of the most exciting stories you love sharing when it comes to mountaineering? Whether it's like, wow, this happened or that happened, we saw
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So let me share one on communication because I'll tell you what happened. Luckily for us, this was one where communication went wrong, not with our group on the mountain, but every time I take people up, so we're going up, we're climbing Tropical in Peru. It's a fairly technical, it's a technical mountain, 20,000, 21,000 something feet.
Wow.
So it's tall, and we don't have phone signal there. So we're using a satellite phone to communicate with our coordinator in Lima, which is the capital of Peru, and from there. The coordinator is sending out a message on a WhatsApp group to the family, and they would just give them like they've reached the next camp, everyone's okay. Because a lot of these family members are stressed. People aren't used to not being able to communicate with your family member on a regular basis. And unfortunately, everyone thinks this is like death defying, right? Anyway, on the way down, and it was a grueling summit climb. I mean, it was tough. We're really worn out. We're tired, and a couple of people say we want a helicopter to go down. Now, just to put things in perspective, when someone asks for a helicopter, generally it means something's gone horribly wrong. It means someone has died or broken something and they're just incapable of moving. Now, in our case, it was just people who were tired. And they're just saying, we'll pay for it. We don't care how much it costs, right? Emotional decision. Now, as the team leader, um, again, with the people pleasing tendency, I kept saying no. But then at some point, I'm like, I just can't deal with this crap. Like, I'm already tired. You know what? Let's just call the helicopter company because I know they're going to say no anyway. So at least they feel like I'm being a team player. We call the helicopter company and they go, is anyone dead? No. Is anyone hurt? No, we're not coming. It doesn't matter if you pay them. It's a risky operation to land at high altitude. Air is thin. It's a mountain. You have to find a flat surface. It's not easy. Anyway, what was communicated by the coordinator on the family chat was they requested a helicopter.
Period.
That's it. Now everyone's thinking, oh my God, what happened? Is it my son? Is it my daughter? Is it my house, my husband, my wife? Everyone's going berserk. People are crying. People aren't sleeping. And it was another 24 hours later when we finally got phone signal. And as soon as we get phone signal, like the phone's going off like crazy, like message, call urgent, urgent. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, what's happened at home? Why are they telling me call urgently? Because there was no context in that either. So I'm getting worried. I'm getting anxious and going, my parents don't normally tell me call urgently unless if there's a serious issue. So I called them up and I'm like, what's going on? And, they're in tears. They're like, what happened? And this and that. I said, no, everything's fine. So there were so many areas where communication went horribly wrong in this case. Luckily, it wasn't within our group. Our group was solid communication, but this was by the coordinator to the rest of the family, and it caused a lot of stress. Had the communication been more clear, just they requested a helicopter, nobody's hurt, everyone is fine. That's all they had to write. And it would have been absolutely okay.
Mhm.
So
Very, very
yeah,
stuff.
it just highlights the point I made earlier that communication is so key because miscommunication can cause all sorts of problems.
Right. Now, I know you work with a lot of multi-million dollar businesses, CEOs, entrepreneurs. What is your ideal client? What are you looking for right now?
Ideal client is really a business owner. And I say business owner because you can either be working in the business, or you could be you just own the business as a shareholder, which is also fine. Someone who's been at it for about 15 odd years, where they've got to the point where they're questioning, is this really worth it? Like what's the point of my, what I thought I'd be more successful. Like, why am I not feeling the joy that I anticipated? Because they checked all the boxes by then. They're successful monetarily. They probably are married or have been married, and they're living with some, quite a decent level of wealth. And they're kind of questioning what life is all about. So that's really the client that I'm focusing on, where they go, I want to be more fulfilled. I want to feel successful, and I don't want to have regret. So that's really the ideal client.
Awesome. Before I let you go, this time has gone by very fast. I could listen to you 3, 4 hours. I got 5 quick rapid fire questions. Give me the first thing comes to mind. You're stranded on the you're stranded on the mountain, and you have one food to eat for the rest of your life. What's that one food there's no consequence?
I don't know what you call it in English, but in India there's this dal called mung dal, and you can make a pancake out of it. I could eat that all day, every day.
Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, we'd love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
I would pick Mark Wahlberg.
Wahlberg shows up and goes, "Hey, buddy, I got casted to play you. Let's hang out. What does a day look like? It's all planned out. What are you taking him out to?
What am I taking up the mountain?
What are you guys doing together?" He goes,
Ah,
"Hey, let's
yeah,
spend time."
we're waking up early. We're some form of yoga in the morning, so which involves movement, breath work, and meditation, followed by potentially a workout as well. a lovely breakfast, preferably outdoors, where you can hear the birds chirping in the morning as well. Then we go for get some work done in the morning, have a nice lunch, and then the afternoon is going on to the mountains, having a lovely trek, watching the sunset, coming back home, laughing, talking about our day, maybe inviting friends and family, preferably sitting outdoors around a fire where we can enjoy under the stars, in a place which is not polluted, so we can see all the stars in the sky, and just kind of talk about, all the fun things in life and the challenges, and just lift each other up.
Mhm.
That sounds like a great day.
What's one thing that is still on your bucket list that you're excited to do?
Starting a t-shirt company. I've designed all these t-shirts with some pretty cool slogans, but I keep telling myself one day I'll launch it. It just hasn't made it high up on the priority list yet, but it will one day.
Awesome. Give me a one number from 1 to 5.
I'm gonna go with two.
1, 2. So the word is diapers. And if you had to use the word diapers as a metaphor for success, how is success like diapers?
You you will always hold the shit and you can absorb it, but at least it prevents it from leaking everywhere.
Nicely done. Thank you very much. So that's how success is like diapers. Um, Much appreciate the time that you spent with us. Anything else you would like to share? And also, how do people get in touch with you? Whether it's to pick up your book or to go mountaineering with you, and what's the process?
Sure. So look, if people are curious in to start the journey of kind of defining what success means to them, the best place to start is on my website. There's a webinar, there's no charge, it just costs you time and energy. So go to www.sahilmehta.com/success. That's SAAHILMEHTA.com/success. And you can start your journey. The webinar will just provide you with the foundation. What does success mean to you? How can you start to identify the baggage that you're carrying in your backpack? And then what steps can you take on a daily basis to ensure that you're moving towards your summits? So would love to have you take the course and share your feedback. And hey, if you want to get in touch, my contact details are there. Just reach out to me.
Awesome. And yeah, so anybody who wants to do that, make sure you connect with him and also pick up his book. So once again, thank you very much. He's Sahil. My name's Fong. Until next time, today is the day to lock the peak potential. We'll see you later.